assalamu alaikum, good morning, khush amdeed, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen.
Bakhair Agaledi, how, Chula Shumme, Washwale, Ohio, Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifahal, Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasal, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Swabiab, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTB World and Watching World this morning, alongside the very fabulous, the very amazing Shiza, Hashmi, and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today? Isn't it getting a little colder these days?
It is most definitely so. Thank you for asking. I am great, but I mean, I do have a little reservations with cold because, you know, every other morning I'm catching these allergies. I have no idea from where.
Okay, so I think what you're actually supposed to do is wear warm clothes, you know. See, imagine that I've actually started to wear jackets now because I know that it's cold outside. So
in
this
my
is something
defense,
which you
guys
need to do.
can't see it. There is my shawl. I was warm early in the morning, ladies and gentlemen. But Shahzad, my point being, you know, how kids go to schools and even we come to work and whatnot, we have no idea what people around us might be carrying in terms of, you know, germs and viruses and whatnot. And it's really spreading lately. And my niece, unfortunately, she developed something from her school. We have no idea who the student was. I mean, she had a throat infection first, but now it's worsening and I don't know when it's going to end. So for everyone out there, please be safe. And if you feel like something might be wrong with you yourself, wear your masks, make other people safe from yourself as well. And just make sure, I mean, that you don't harm people around you.
Exactly. Thank you very much for saying that. And it's a wonderful point. And for all of those parents who are out there, this is something which I've recently started doing, that, you know, once my daughter will actually come back home, you know, right away she'll start eating with those hands with you do not know what they have been up to because they're kids, you know, they'll play with toys, you know, since they're roaming around and they're in the school, so you don't know what they're touching. So it's very essential to let them know that, you know, kiddo, in the first place, you have to wash your hands and then move on to whatever you wanted to do. This might sound very basic, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm sure that I can actually promise or guarantee you that your kids are going to stay healthy if they wash their hands even before eating anything. And you know, you were very right when you said that people actually need to wear masks. We have been speaking about it, that for all of those people who actually catch flus and viruses and whatnot, please make sure that you do not hug other people, you do not shake hands with other people, because you can actually get them to get sick as well. So please don't do that. And I know that people over in Pakistan have this tradition of, you know, shaking hands and hugging, and, you know, it's out of courtesy as well. And there's nothing to feel bad about if the other person refuses, knowing that you're actually ill. I think this comes under the table of having manners. So that nobody else actually gets sick just because of you.
And Shahzad, I feel like, you know, we sort of ignore the facts how we might catch germs, including us. I mean, we don't really. So this is literally going to be basic information, but it's really helpful for everyone out there. Imagine, let's look at our day, right? We wake up and whatever conveyance we take to work as well, we are touching the car parts and whatnot. So many people have used them as well. The doorknobs, right, of course, and the material products that we use in the makeup studio downstairs as well. And we sip on coffee cans as well. We don't know who's been holding those coffee cans. I mean, imagine, and we just put it to our lips. I mean, there's so many ways of catching germs and whatnot. Lately, we're speaking about this because since last year, Shahzad and I took a pledge that we're going to get flu shots because we developed this.
And we did, and I've been through flu now, so I think that everything's great now as well.
Right, all right. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, today happens to be a very important day, not only in the history of Pakistan, but in the history of the entire world. So we're going to take you back to 1947 when, of course, Pakistan got its independence, but a very dear, let's say, brother of Pakistan also sort of got independence, partially, some say, or fully even. Azad Jammu and Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are talking about. Today happens to be the founding day or even Independence Day for Azad Jammu and Kashmir. For all the people who are watching this from outside Pakistan, AJK or Azad Jammu and Kashmir is popularly known as Pakistan occupied Kashmir as well, but it's not really occupied, trust me. Trust me, I'm telling you that. So it has its own constitutional legislative independence, also judicial as well. And this is what we will be talking about, of course, how we've been having these shared years, or almost more than 70 now. And also, while we're talking about Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Shahzad, we cannot ignore the fact that Indian-occupied Kashmir is a part of Kashmir as well. Of course, I mean, divided in 1947, yes, unfortunately. But people living in that area of Kashmir, unfortunately, it's been more than 80 days now. They've been in lockdowns. There's communication blackout. The family members are all over the place. They're not even living together. People are getting kidnapped. I mean, so many human rights violations, atrocities happening there right now, reported ones as well. And this is not just assumption, ladies and gentlemen. This is reported there. It's on videos, it's on news out there. Journalists have been going there and making access to whatever's been happening there.
Exactly. And so you can see it everywhere as well. And for all of those people who are out there, I think that it is very important for everybody to understand that how difficult life would be right now in occupied Kashmir. The footages you see, even last night while I was watching news, there were 3 more people which were actually being murdered by the Indian army as well. And the atrocities are just picking up, even though that our premier and there were other world leaders who actually, even Dr. Arif Alvi Saab, when he was, while he was visiting Japan, he's actually spoke to the Japanese Prime Minister about the Indian issue, the Indian occupied Kashmir issue as well. And I think that for all of those people who reside within India, I know that they are very sensible, they're very educated. I think those are the people who are actually going to let the government know, their government, relative government know, that this is not something which needs to be done with kids, youngsters and people who are very elderly.
Or humans at all, Shahzad. I mean, there's no literally age group to which human you should violate or not. But also one very important thing that we must be discussing today, Shahzad, ever since 1947, even before that, Pakistan has been advocating for the right to self-determination of Kashmiris. I mean, there's no, let's say, a plan or a strategy or even, a conspiracy theory, let's say, where Pakistan wants to take over AJK, the Azad Jammu and Kashmir we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It's always been about what Kashmiris want, and that is what we as Pakistanis, we as Kashmiris will be advocating for the Indian occupied Kashmir as well.
Exactly.
There's a lot to the history of Kashmir as well, but Shahzad and I don't think we can do justice to it. That is why we have a very apt panel of guests over here, and let's get to them, I mean, straight away, because we need to listen to all the facts.
That's what we're going to do. But ladies and gentlemen, today is the day when we are actually going to celebrate the freedom of the Azad Jammu and Kashmiri people as well.
And pray
and
for
then at the same time, we're actually going to learn from because if you go back in time, if you go back in 1840s, and since then, I think that they were the ones who were oppressed as well, and they fought for it. They made sure that they're going to come to a point where they're actually going to enjoy freedom on that piece of land as well. So they went through a lot of struggle, they went through a lot of sacrifices, from which we can actually learn. The people of Indian occupied Kashmir can learn as well what they went through. I don't believe, or what they're going through, I don't think that people within Indian occupied Kashmir should be going through that as well. So we'll learn a little, we'll go back in history, we'll talk about it, how Azad Jammu and Kashmir was actually founded, or if we talk about its Independence Day as well. We've been joined by some very amazing guests over here in the studios. We're very thankful to them that they've taken our time. And in the first place, it's their responsibility to be here as well on such a day. So ladies and gentlemen, with us today, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by an APHC leader. He's none other than Mr. Altaf Wani. Hello sir, assalamu alaikum, how are you?
Wa alaikum salam, alhamdulillah, I'm fine.
And thank you very much for joining us on such a wonderful day.
Thank you for providing this opportunity.
Thank you very much once again. And alongside Mr. Altaf Wani, ladies and gentlemen, we've actually been joined by another APHC leader. He's none other than Advocate Parvez Shahzad as well. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for providing us an opportunity to celebrate the independence
Sir,
of
it's
the
absolutely
Azad Kashmir.
our pleasure.
Sir, thank you very much for joining us. But there's only one confusion I have today. Even though that we're actually talking about the founding day of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, I still feel at the same time that it is, when we think about the Indian occupied Kashmir or people residing within Indian occupied Kashmir, so there's a very mixed emotion within my own self that one part of Kashmir we are speaking about its freedom, and the other part is still going through a lot of atrocities, that too given by India as well. How do you think that we should celebrate this day?
You see, the history of Kashmir is very tragic. We have been struggling for our rights not since decades, but for centuries. We have been under subjugation of different rules from Afghan, Sikhs and others in the course of history. But the latest phase, which already started from 1886, when the British India sold the Kashmir to the Dogra Maharaja, and then the tyranny of Maharaja started in Kashmir, and then in early 30s, the people of Kashmir started a political resistance against the tyranny of Maharaja Kashmir, against that rule. And since then, the struggle was on in Kashmir. It was all for the political rights, it was for the civil rights in Kashmir. That moment continued, and we have many instances in history. 13th of July, when 22 people were killed by martyred by the Indian, by the Maharaja forces when they were hearing case, there was a case against one of the warriors, Qadir Khan, in the central jail, Srinagar. 22 people who, one rose to say the Azan and then he was killed. Then 22 days repeated the Azan, and when they completed the Azan, and 22 people were killed in that incident. And there is many political organizations, many other organizations who were formed in that form to resist the Maharaja's tyranny. But when the political struggle in the subcontinent was also on in India, in the British India, for the to end the British rule, India and Pakistan, two sovereign states came into existence. But unfortunately, the people of Kashmir had again to reel under another occupation.
They were never solved.
They were never solved.
Yeah.
When we say the 24th of October, when we are celebrating the founding day of the Azad Kashmir government, there was a huge struggle. As I already said, there was a struggle against the Maharaja's tyranny. And when British India got divided, it was decided at that time that the states who had the majority of their population, they will align there with some 564 princely states. They were given the authority either to join India or Pakistan. Kashmir being a Muslim majority state and it's geographically located with Pakistan, it was that it would accede to the Pakistan. And the political party, the greatest political party, which was having the political struggle for the Kashmir rights, All Jammu Kashmir Muslim Conference, which was at that time, they decided on 19th of July, 1947, that they will accede to Pakistan and advised Maharaja that Maharaja should accede to the Pakistan. But then the incidents took place in August. We saw the arrival of the forces of Sikh, Patiala and Akalis coming into the Jammu and starting them. They were already in Jammu. And the people in Punch, they started a rebellion, armed rebellion against the Maharaja of Kashmir. It was led by Sardar Muhammad Abdul Qayyum Khan, the late president of Azad Kashmir. And then it spread to the Mirpur, it spread to the Kotli and other places, and also to Muzaffarabad. As there was always a bond between the people of this region, I mean Punjab and North Frontier Post, this was always bond with the people of Kashmir. The earlier resistances which took place in Kashmir, they were supported by the people in Punjab. They were supported, their main epicenter was Lahore because they were getting all those support from Lahore, they were getting support from this place. So in this struggle also, the people from these areas also supported the people of Kashmir.
Absolutely.
And so when the Indian forces landed in Kashmir on though they landed in Kashmir Valley on 27th of October, but before that they were already in Jammu. The other forces were already in Jammu. So this rebellion which started here, they liberated this land which is called Azad Jammu and Kashmir. This then on 24th of August, government was formed to have a government in place and in order to struggle for the liberation of the other parts of the Kashmir. But unfortunately, the Indians then took the case to the United Nations. United Nations passed the resolutions on Kashmir. They said the people of Kashmir will decide their own future. A ceasefire was established at that time. And then this government got also legitimacy from the UNCIP resolution which is in place there. But unfortunately, we do not see those resolutions implemented. That's why we see this tragedy in the Indian-occupied Kashmir settle. The people are struggling for their rights. But they are facing the brutal repression of the Indian forces from last 72 years now. And the world is not silent. They are not intervening. Now from last 80 days, you see the people are caged. They are
and even the people who were writing on social media in favor of Kashmir, they've tired down. I mean, it's been 80 days. The people who are under siege are not tiring. They are facing all those atrocities every day. And for us, I mean, we really have to be a part of it every other day as well. And sir, you mentioned, I think it was really nice of you to mention that India took it to the UN, but only to just leave it over there. I mean, there was nothing done about it. But so, you know, last year when we were celebrating or, you know, observing Kashmir's Foundation Day, we had Kashmiri youth from AJK, Mirpur, Muzaffarabad and everything, and they had had some inspiring ideas about the future. I mean, looking at a generation, looking at a community that has been sort of under, I don't know, violations for a very long time, you would expect people to be frustrated. You would expect them to be extremists, but they were, mashallah, so educated, of course, and they were resilient. The nation itself, we're talking about AJK right now, even of course Indian-occupied Kashmir. Where do they drive all this inspiration from? I mean, they're still going on the fight.
That's a wonderful question.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to pay on this important day, I'd like to pay the tribute to those martyrs who struggled against the Indian repression in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, as well as before this area was liberated. They had a long struggle. As Mr. Wani said, that people who were struggling against the tyrannies, against the brutalities of the Maharaja for decades, and they were very fortunate that they got the opportunity and they liberated this part of the Azad Kashmir, and on 24th they declared revolutionary government, and that revolutionary government in its memorandum agreed that they will liberate the occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and it's their duty. And I think it is what they are very much lucky, the people of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, when we make a comparison with Indian occupied Kashmir. They have their own state, they have their own constitution, they have their own flag, and they have their own legislative assembly, and they have their council. And we, the people of Indian occupied Kashmir, unfortunately have been deprived of all these things by the Indian government. And I will make one addition, that the government of Pakistan has been generous enough towards the government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, that even we have seen in the past in Gilgit-Baltistan, which is a part of the Jammu and Kashmir, they just asked for their rights, and when the government of Pakistan made the offer, and they just asked the government of Pakistan, they want to accede with the state of Pakistan, and the population is ready to accede, but we see how much the generosity we have seen on the part of the Pakistan. They just made it clear that we are going to give you every right, but we will not accede you, because it is the part of a disputed territory. Until the dispute is resolved, you can have the every right. When we make the comparison with the India, how India has behaved for the last 70 years, it has been making every attempt every day to make its occupation more strong, more and more, and to annex the state. And unfortunately, on 5th of the August, despite these United Nations resolutions, which my friend was talking, despite these all bilateral agreements, despite international law, they annexed the disputed territory within the Union of India. So on this day, it is the people of Azad Jammu and Kashmir have been very much lucky enough, and this is the way that we have to celebrate this thing, that their rights have not been infringed, and Pakistan has not made any interference, and they have got, they can do it anytime, because the people in Azad Jammu and Kashmir, there is a popular sentiment to join with the state of Pakistan, but Pakistan has kept in mind that the disputed nature of the Jammu and Kashmir should not be disturbed, and United Nations resolutions should not be frustrated. So they are lucky enough, they have the relation with the state of Pakistan. When we coming to the aspirations, that how the people of Azad Kashmir are
still
getting
so
the
resilient.
aspirations. You see, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, we have seen the young boy like Burhan, Wani, and such a handsome boy. When he is fighting against the occupation, we have seen number of boys, small boys, and we are fighting for a cause. They are fighting for a cause, and definitely when this state of Azad Jammu and Kashmir was formed on 24th, it is written in the document that we have to keep the struggle going on, we have to liberate, and they have been very much, the successive governments have been very much successful to keep this light, keep alive this sentiment, and this is the reason that people of the Azad Jammu and Kashmir have been taught, educated, they have been groomed in such an atmosphere that we have to liberate that part of Indian occupation.
And that is inshallah of course going to happen, but thank you so much for mentioning the fact that Kashmir in itself is a disputed territory, even the past that Pakistan has. But I mean it's really great to look at it that even though we cannot completely, make that a part of Pakistan. But the struggle has been going on. I mean, we are mainstreaming them as well in education systems as well, in policy making, whatnot. And for all the people out there who might pinpoint or who might criticize that it was India's part and they might do whatever they want, they can remove Article 370. The thing is, it's a disputed territory. It's not India. Ladies and gentlemen, read about it before you even can make a point or criticize. Of course, it is a disputed territory. So here's the thing. Of course, when we're looking at 47 or even going back, a referendum was promised. Everyone knows it's on the paper. Everyone in the world knows about it. But till date, there's no, I mean, we haven't seen even the slightest reflection or a face of referendum going to happen soon or not.
And we have even seen that United Nations resolutions, one after another, has actually failed to have been implemented. Why do you think that we still witness that?
See, we should be fair to the history. When the India took the case to the United Nations in 1947, which I was discussing earlier, at that time India had in the view that they will get away from the UN, that UN will say that, okay,
India
the Maharaja has acceded to the Indians, but they did not get the clean sheet from the UN. But thereafter, if you see the role of United Nations until 1957, again and again, whenever India violated anything, whenever they did anything, Pakistan rushed to the UN Security Council, and UN Security Council did pass a resolution and did ask India not to abide by. Unfortunately, thereafter, we were also lacking. We did not also run to the United Nations at many of the times. For the last 50 years, in between 50 years gap was there, that we did not knock the doors of the United Nations or Security Council for this purpose. This is also one of the reasons. But the other reason is that UN resolution itself and then the international diplomacy and international arena that changed, the scenario changed, and then we had sometimes USSR was blocking the resolutions on Kashmir, and then we saw a total different shift. But that doesn't mean that United Nations Security Council doesn't have the role. It's unfortunate they have failed to implement resolutions on Kashmir. That's why we see so much of bloodshed in Kashmir. That's why the double standards of United Nations, double standards of the UN Security Council, in other cases we have seen in some of the cases, they do intervene even if there is a slightest of moment in those cases, they intervene. But here in Kashmir, we see for last 72 years and more of for last 30 years, you see that each and every day you have dozens of people being killed by the Indian army, but there is no intervention from even the condemnation from the international forum. That is what, when they were not condemned by the international powers, by the big powers, that's why that India became so arrogant that not only they started killing, butchering the people of Kashmir, they annexed the state of Jammu and Kashmir on 5th of August. And still they are telling the world that it's our part, and still we don't see the intervention from the international community in Kashmir. That's why we see, though there is a huge regime of human rights systems around the globe by the United Nations and other United systems, but this was in place to create peace and security around the globe. But we see everywhere there is conflict. It's because of these double standards.
It's because it's a scam, I'm telling you, international organizations. And thank you so much for saying it, sir, the double standards of the United Nations.
Stay quiet today,
I'm going to take a moment here because today, internationally, we are also observing United Nations Day. So, hey, here's the face of United Nations. I mean, an organization which has passed more than around 23 resolutions for Kashmir itself is actually considering India to be a part of its Security Council, looking at the diplomacy, looking at the, double standards over here. I'm really not looking forward to any help or even intervention from any international organization, let alone United Nations.
Thank you very much for saying that, and we definitely want you to elaborate upon this as well. But there's one more thing which was very heart quenching. It was very hurtful for me when I saw this. That even though that our premier has actually pledged the global powers and global leaders to come together on this. But unfortunately, a few of our very close allies,
Muslim brothers
have not even commented about it as well. Whereas, if we speak about Turkey or Pakistan only, I think these are the only two countries. Yeah. So how do you think that it was received by people within the Indian occupied Kashmir? that a majority of global leadership is not even talking about their right to
Shahzad, they
self-determination.
can't see. They don't have anything to. I don't think
But
they're
how
aware
was
of
it
the world
received by the
population.
No, no, it
ACFC
was
leaders, for example?
sure. Yeah, I will add one thing to Mr. Wani's argument that it was not only United Nations resolutions. We have the commitments from the Indian leadership. If we go back in 1947, it was Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru who said that we do not believe in forced marriages. So what did he mean at that time? So what changed after that? How India changed? People know, and we are knowing the facts that how they got interested in the Kashmir, about their natural resources, about its strategic importance. So they backed out from their commitments. I think that what you have said, that people of Jammu and Kashmir has not taken this argument in a positive way. When one of the important OIC countries says that it is not an issue of Islamic countries, we should not connect it with the religion. It is so much unfortunate that ethnic cleansing is making India. Muslims are being eliminated. Hindus have been taken out from the state by design by the government of India in 1992. They have been asked to settle in Jammu. And after that, they started killing the Muslims, and even one of our Muslim brothers will say that it is not the issue of the religion, it is a completely a religious issue, because all the people living in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, they are Muslims. And secondly, if India has annexed it and it has abrogated Article 35A, what are the intentions behind it? Because they want to make the demographic changes, they want to eliminate the Muslims, and they want to put more and more, they want to bring the Hindus from outside the state and settle them there in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Why it is not the issue of Muslim Ummah? Because if one of your limbs is being cut by Indian forces, by Indian authorities, it is an issue of Muslim Ummah. But Shahzad, one thing I will say, that even if the statements of the Islamic countries and other, they were not up to the expectation of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but people have not even then given up.
Wow.
They have not surrendered.
Of
You see, if we see the last, since the Indian occupation has been under the strict curfew, India is very much frustrated, and they have been making every attempt to make the breakthrough. They have been approaching to the political leadership. Even that leadership that has been with India for who have been promoting the Indian narrative in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir in detention, they have been influenced. They have been approached by the government of India, by their Ajit Doval and other, who is the national security advisor, and other high ups, that they should negotiate with them. This is the way fortunate that the people of India, Jammu and Kashmir, did not surrender, and they did not go for the negotiation. This has frustrated India. When on the one hand we are saying that India is killing people and nothing is going to change, we have to take it in a positive sense that people of Jammu and Kashmir have given them the tough time, and they are thinking on these lines that how we will make the breakthrough, how to bring them back in the rope. So this is the positive.
And even we are not going to give up, ladies and gentlemen. This is something which we are going to make sure that every other day, whenever we are going to wake up, we are actually going to speak about the freedom for all of those Kashmiris living and residing in Indian occupied Kashmir.
Most definitely so. And sir, I think ever since 92 and forward, this has been getting even harder now that with the intervention of, let's say, the Hindutva concept coming in. I think, and I'm going to say it blatantly, state-sponsored radicalism, religious radicalism is actually being perpetrated in India and parts of India, which is now being extended into Indian occupied Kashmir, the valley itself. And like you said, they are mainstreaming the valley with Hindus over there. And I feel like, this is my own assumption, I don't know, I really hope it doesn't translate into reality, but once there is a majority of Hindus in that, then it's really easy to conduct a referendum as well. And once that goes in the favor, there's literally no one in the world who can say anything about
That's
the
what they've been
referendum.
trying to do.
Yeah, so I mean, what are the future that we're looking at, considering the fact that RSS-based, BJP is going to stay in power for a very long time? It has been since 90s.
You see, the world has to see the rise of Hindutva.
Yeah.
We have seen the radicalization in India rising from time to time, and now from 2014 onwards, you see them in the power, and now capturing the power each and every state of India.
Yes.
World has to look on at the micro level that all those actions which the radical Hindu extremists take in India, in mainland India, in different parts of India, those actions are condoned by the state.
Yeah.
None of the perpetrators has been brought to justice so far. Not even the Prime Minister of India has issued a statement on the mob lynching. Not even any government official. That speaks the volumes of how Indian state is turning fast into a fascist state.
Yes.
You said recently the issue of the refugees in the Assam and other places.
1.2 million people
Yeah,
stripped of their
1.2 million
citizenship.
stripped of their
Muslims.
citizenship. Those were the people who were welcomed by the India
Exactly.
when they were annexing the Pakistan's one part of Pakistan.
Right.
That's
Those
true.
were the people who helped them in that.
They were promised.
They were promised that they were there. But now, again, the Amit Shah is on record that all those Hindus and other people who have come from that place, except for the Muslims, everybody will be given the citizenship. And the Muslims have been asked either to accept that legislation to go back or to construct concentration camps themselves
Yes.
and live in those concentration camps. This is in the India. And now in Kashmir, they are already colonizing Kashmir.
Yeah.
They are there for last 70 years,
Yeah.
but people of Kashmir have been resisting their colonization process, but now they have started colonizing Kashmir through these legislations which they have taken place, and now they want to take most of the Hindus to settle in Kashmir, to settle them in Jammu and other places, but people of Kashmir are still resisting that. But this world has to see that this rising Hindutva, rising radical Hinduism
Yes.
is a danger to the peace and security, not only to the people of Kashmir, not only to the people in the region,
rest of the world.
but now the people in Far East, they are facing this. They are in danger also this, because these people are living over there. We have seen some of the glimpses of these radicalizations now spreading even to the United States.
Yeah, of
United
course,
States
of
of
course.
America, these radical Hindus are there. They are Howdy Modi and like these all these things, and they are a man who was debarred to enter into the United States before 2014. Now he is being given
being celebrated as God,
as God in there, and also in European nations. But I will tell to the international university, international community, do not forget, it is not only Islamophobia that you
I
were
was
talking
coming to that,
about.
yes.
Now the rising
Hindu
Hindutva
radicalism.
is radicalism, is spreading over. You have to take the note.
And thank you
Absolutely,
very
and I
much. Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to add to this, ladies and gentlemen, what Wani Sahab said over here is absolutely correct. And in years to come, I think that we'll actually have to see for ourselves, and
Yes,
this is
of
something
course.
that which we are actually going to witness as well. But just a very simple point over here, that we're not actually labeling a religion for that. What we are actually trying to convey over here is that this is a very different kind of agenda for one of the political party within India, and that's what they are projecting, and it's just because of the fact that they want more voters, more numbers to pool in. And so even if you've seen, I don't know whether a lot of people have seen this series or not, Sacred Games on Netflix, that entire series actually entails and says that whenever the world needs a kind of conflict, it is definitely meant to be in between two different religions. So this is what they are doing, this is what they're opting for, this is what they have made a choice to do, so that they can get voters in a larger number.
Absolutely, and this is the exercise of soft power. This is neo-imperialism, ladies and gentlemen. This is how you can see it in the modern world, where this is going. But since we're left with very little time, I want to ask you both, ladies and gentlemen, of course, today is the Independence Day of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, but we cannot ignore the Indian-occupied Kashmir while we're celebrating the independence of AJK. Thus, we are speaking about all these things. Now, you said that there are still people in Azad Jammu and Kashmir who were, raising voice for the freedom of people in Indian-occupied Kashmir, actually, and some of them were even okay with the rights they were bestowed with, right? They were working with the Indian government, like the previous Home Minister, Mehbooba Mufti Sahiba as well. And after she was detained, her daughter has been running a social media, and she's been pledging the world to take a step with, because even people who are in solidarity with India, or who were, even they are being detained in Tihar jail, Delhi jail, even in Srinagar. So who now will take this movement forward?
You see,
Now that we're knowing everyone is literally detained.
You see, the current act of government of India has left India in a situation that there's nobody in Indian occupied Kashmir who
raise
is ready
voice.
to talk to India.
Yeah.
India will find no collaborators, though they are trying to find the collaborators in Indian occupied Kashmir. They're not going to get these. That's why you see, whenever India, now the Indians are going, they were going elections in Maharashtra, other places. You,
Yes.
you have seen the escalation on the borders on LOC. The firing on LOC, lots of loss of life and property on LOC. That's they want to make casualty the people of Azad Kashmir, the people of Pakistan, and in order that the people should not get any idea of what's happening in occupied Kashmir.
Exactly.
That's why, because already the international organizations have issued those alerts that there will be a genocide in Kashmir, that which India is planning, and they might have carried it, because there is
We
no
don't know.
we don't know,
We don't
because
know.
we don't have those communication available, what's happening in the different parts of Kashmir. So the people of Kashmir are determined. We have seen even in these circumstances,
Exactly.
when there was so much of curfew, there is so much of militarization on each and every nook and corner of the Srinagar and other places throughout the Indian occupied Kashmir, there is military, but we have seen the people coming out, they are agitating against it. And we have seen the reports from Indian civil society,
Yes.
from the international media, what they say. Today, I saw an article in the Independent, but he says that Kashmir is seething. It needs somebody to intervene before it's too
The
late.
intellectuals believe in that.
Yeah.
So that international community has to come and rescue, and for the Indian government, that you treat every Kashmiri as terrorist. You treat every Kashmiri whom as terrorist launching pad.
Absolutely.
How many you can kill?
How many
People
can-
are
yeah.
not ready to live with us. We will continue. This is a message to India. We will continue our struggle against your oppression. How much cost we have to pay, we are ready to pay. for.
Right,
And we
and
are
that
all
is
part of this
absolutely-
struggle, ladies and gentlemen. Not even a single Pakistani is actually going to stand out of the line. I think each and every one of us are going to push for it. And every Friday you've seen that, on the notifications of the Prime Minister, we stand in solidarity with the Indian occupied Kashmir as well. But where Parvez Sahab actually wanted to add, so Parvez Sahab, please go ahead.
I want to add one thing, that who is going to lead this movement in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. For the last 2-3 months, we have seen one thing which we must propagate and which we must keep eye on it.
Sure.
That India has put the leadership of all parties Hurriyat conference, almost the leadership behind the bars.
Yes.
And they do not want to give them any kind of a political space. We have seen that we had a boy known as Hayat. A few days back, there is I may add one thing, there is one area in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir that is known as Sora.
Okay.
The people of Indian occupied Kashmir and particularly of that area have made that area no-go area for the Indian forces. Nobody has been able to enter this particular area for the last 18 days.
Okay.
80 days. So what happened, a young boy known as Hayat. Hayat,
Young man.
he's young boy. He just stood and started to lead this movement. What India did, he was just coming out of his home. His home is outside that particular area,
Right.
and two policemen in a civilian uniform, they just got a hold of him and just made a fire in the air, and just these occupation forces came and took him to the. But we have seen the other situation. We have seen the national conference, when they took the protest in the streets, they were arrested, but they were released on the second day. But the Hayat was put in the detention for 2 years. So India wanted to eliminate the voice, that is all parties Hurriyat conference, which has been represented. We have to take into consideration the true voice of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, which represents the aspiration. That is all parties Hurriyat conference. It will lead, and it has to lead.
It
Yeah,
has.
and
Thank
we'll
you so
definitely
much
do
for
that.
saying that, and that is what we're looking forward to as well. Thank you so much for being here, celebrating this day with us. Ladies and gentlemen, today happens to be the Foundation and Independence Day of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and we are so proud to actually witness the independence that they're observing happily in Pakistan. Even UN reports have mentioned that. But
And
of
at
course,
the-
at the same time, of course, we are not forgetting our Kashmiri Muslim brethren from Indian occupied Kashmir as well. And ladies and gentlemen, right now, when I speak for Indian occupied Kashmir, I don't speak as a Muslim, I speak as as a Hindu, people who are going to stand against any sort of human right violation, they cannot be considered or labeled as mujahideen, and then, you know, you just send in your forces and violate them of any right that they have to their life. So ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you pray to it, you open your eyes to it, and at least raise your voice to it, because of course Kashmir should have the right to self-determination.
Exactly.
It should
Thank
be
you
khud
very
mukhtar.
much. Yeah, thank you very much, Shiza, for making this point. So people, please make sure you write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of
Well This Morning.
on Twitter,
Well This Morning without a
on
G.
Daily Motion and YouTube.
Also Well This Morning.
And the fabulous recipe is going to be at
5:11 p.m. tonight.
till the next day. 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.